أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله نور السماوات والأرض، مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح، المصباح في زجاجة، الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار، نور على نور، يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم. في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار، ليجزيهم الله أحسن ما عملوا ويزيدهم من فضله، والله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. والذين كفروا أعمالهم كسراب بقيعة يحسبه الظمآن ماء حتى إذا جاءه لم يجده شيئا ووجد الله عنده فوفاه حسابه، والله سريع الحساب. أو كظلمات في بحر لجي يغشاه موج من فوقه سحاب، ظلمات بعضها فوق بعض إذا أخرج يده لم يكد يراها، ومن لم يجعل الله له نورا فما له من نور. ألم تر أن الله يسبح له من في السماوات والأرض والطير صافات كل قد علم صلاته وتسبيحه، والله عليم بما يفعلون. ولله ملك السماوات والأرض وإلى الله المصير. ألم تر أن الله يزجي سحابا ثم يؤلف بينه ثم يجعله ركاما فترى الودق يخرج من خلاله وينزل من السماء من جبال فيها من برد فيصيب به من يشاء ويصرفه عن من يشاء، يكاد سنا برقه يذهب بالأبصار، يقلب الله الليل والنهار، إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الأبصار. الله خلق كل دابة من ماء فمنهم من يمشي على بطنه ومنهم من يمشي على رجلين ومنهم من يمشي على أربع يخلق الله ما يشاء إن الله على كل شيء قدير لقد أنزلنا آيات مبينات والله يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Just an introduction to this, because we are talking about environment, and very often what we do as Muslims is we try to find verses and ahadith where it's quite clear that in Islam there are verses and there are ahadith commanding us, ordering and advising us to be respectful towards nature. In fact, it's deeper than that. A few years ago when I was, and this is why I chose this one, this passage of the Qur'an. A few years ago when I was listening to Prince Charles, he came to Oxford to give a lecture. It was on environment. And in fact, I was listening to him and he's saying something which is much deeper than what we Muslims are saying very often, in the relationship between us and nature, the very essence of the meaning of Tawheed, the relationship. And just last week we were in Qatar and we had a 3-day seminar on environment, and we had again two positions. Some Muslims trying to find in the verses of the Qur'an, in the hadith, the verses that are helping us to respect nature. But in fact, we need to get this understanding as a consequence of something which is deeper, which is something which is the essence of Tawheed and in fact the cosmological teaching of Islam. And this is what you get here in these verses. It's deeper than that. It's not environment because we are facing catastrophe. It's environment because we are believing in God. It's an ecology of principles, not an ecology coming out of catastrophes or risks or dangers. And if you come to this, so three things that we have to remember, and it will come through the tafsir of this, is the first thing that we have in Islam is remember the origin. And you have one verse here who is telling us this in this passage, and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Qur'an, فَإِنَّ خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ مِن نُطْفَةٍ ثُمَّ مِنْ عَلَقَةٍ. From turab, you have been created out of dust. And this is what Shaitan is saying. Iblis is saying, I was created out of light, and you created them out of dust. The other thing is what we have here in the verse that you quoted just before is وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ دَابَّةٍ مِّن مَاءٍ. We have been created out of water. So water and dust, the two elements. The origin, it's important. And what was interesting in our discussion is that, you know, if you go to the Eastern spiritualities, this relationship that we have in very deep traditional African, Asian philosophies and spiritualities is the earth is the mother. And in fact, for the first time, I heard this relationship is that it's not only a relationship that is, we have been created out of dust, so the earth is the source. Allah created out, and it could be exactly the same as the mother. The mother, the concept of mother, the relationship, al-Rahma, al-Rahim, all this, it's also something that we find in Islam as to the source, water and dust. And Sheikh al-Qardaghi, one of the scholars who was with us, came with this by saying, in fact, if we go deep in the cosmology in Islam, we can get that. We can get this understanding. So the origin, and you have it here. You will get it once again here, coming back to the verse that I was mentioning. So as an introduction, the source is important. The second point is the relationship, that in fact, nature is a book that you read, but it's also doing what you are doing out of your consciousness, out of your belief. Nature is doing it naturally. This chanting the glory of Allah, it's everywhere in nature, and you have it here. And this also is very important, is that we do not only respect nature because it's a gift, but because the natural order is in fact in itself a celebration. The way you pray is a ritual, and the way nature is praying is out of a sunan al-kawniyya. A sunan al-kawniyya, these laws that Allah put, is the way they are praying. And you don't understand. وَلَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِحَهُمْ. This is what we have in the Qur'an. You don't understand the way they are praying God. So nature and the rules and the laws that we have, the natural order, is something that we will find also here. And the last thing which is important is another dimension. So the first is the source, the second is the relationship that we have with nature, and the third thing is that this nature, you are responsible because you are khulafa, you are the vicegerents on earth, that you have to deal with this earth. سَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Allah gave you this as a gift. He sakhara, mean taskhir, mean he put this at your disposal. So now you are going to be tested in the way you deal with it. You have the same source, it's the same celebration, but you have a responsibility out of your freedom. Because what is the nature is celebration without freedom, by the very essence of nature. Your way of worshipping Allah is celebration out of your freedom, so your responsibility. And all this, you can find it in the verse in a very specific way. Let us come to the verses now and try to get a better understanding of that. The starting point is Allahu nuru samawati wa ma fil ard. Allah is the light of, where is that? Let me try trying. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. And there is a parable. And this parable is very strange because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's talking about nurun ala nur, when He's going to this, the meaning of faith, you understand that His light is like the way He's putting it, it's put here. The parable of His light is, as it were, that is a niche containing a lamp. The point here is, in fact, Allah, to talk about our faith, His light, He's not talking only about nature. He's talking about something that human being can understand out of a construction. So there is something which is, it's man-made lamp, it's like a niche, and there is something which is not nature. You will see that as for kufr, there is nothing has to do, the parable, it has nothing to do with what the people are doing. It's all about the nature, is wave, up and wave, and darkness, and they cannot see. Everything about kufr is deeper than nature, is deep in your nature. But what it comes with light is what you do, and then yakadu, that this light, it's as if there is something which is natural and supernatural. Look at the verse and you can get that. It's something which is quite impressive if you thoroughly think about it. When you have the parable of His light is, as it were, that is a niche containing a lamp. The lamp is enclosed in a glass. All this is man-made. It's not natural. This is what you are going to do out of your construction. And this is why you will get the image of the people who are striving in the way they deal with their life. They are not distracted. So just the verse that are coming in glass. The glass shining like a radiant star, a lamp lit from a blessed tree. So now you have the nature. So this is what you do, and the source is the nature, the tree. And look at the way it's an olive tree that is neither for east nor for west. So it's something which is not coming from nature. This is coming from God. It's not coming from geography. It's coming from Him. And add to this, the oil whereof is so bright that it would well nigh give light of itself, even though fire had not touched it. So it's as if It's what you do as a parable coming from nature, the olive tree, and there is something which is supernatural. This is coming from God, and the end of it is nurun ala nur. So when you come to the understanding of Allah, the way He's talking about our way of getting His light, it's what you do out of your nature, knowing that the answer is supernatural. It's not coming from you. It's coming from beyond. It's as if this light is coming without being touched by the other light, which is coming that the will of God, that this dimension is here. You can see here in the way he's, and you have lots of commentaries on this passage, is the ayat al-nur. It's well known in the mystical traditions, of course, because there is something which is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about the way He is putting light in our heart, and the way it's at the same time natural, coming out of our effort, knowing that our effort are not enough. It's what you do. So the image here, it's not only natural. It's natural plus something which has to do with supernatural as to the secret of God. And the end is God profounds parables unto men, since God alone has full knowledge of all things. So this is the first dimension of what believing means, what the very meaning of believing in God, which has to do with a parable where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about what we are constructing, the lamp and the way, the niche, that we can understand that. Come now to the way we are talking about the people who are worshipping Allah. في بيوت أذن الله أن يرفع ويذكر فيها اسمه ويسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال. So the point here is the way we are going to pray. It's coming from what? In houses where the people are going to remember Him and to pray. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع. So it's out of what? People who are not distracted by life. They are not distracted by money, tijara, which is money. This is, the Qur'an is talking first to the Arabs, and that what we can understand here is that they are focusing on praying. It's out of an effort. As much as you make an effort to build a lamp, that you understand what is coming out of your effort, the way you are dealing with your life is out of effort. It's the way you are now trying to come to deal with your own nature. Your nature will be what? To be attracted by money. Spirituality, it's what? To be focusing on believing, on the way you strive. And the meaning of that is what? Dhikrullah. So the nur in your light, the way you are getting this light in your heart is by dhikrullah wa iqam as-salah. Dhikrullah, iqam as-salah wa ita az-zakah, which has to do with the way you are connecting your mind and heart with God. The very first pillar of Islam is salah, and the second is the way you deal with your money. You are not attracted by getting money, you are focusing on the fact that you are going to give money. It's the effort, is the jihad, which is once again something which is coming out of your own effort on your nature. Your nature would be to go towards trade and getting money, and then why are they doing this? يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا تَتَقَلَّبُ فِيهِ الْقُلُوبُ وَالْأَبْصَارُ. They are who are filled with fear at the thought of the day on which all hearts and eyes will be convulsed. Just one thing, which is one word here, which is important, is تتقلب. تتقلب. The Prophet ﷺ in one hadith is saying, يا مقلب القلوب. He's talking Allah, يا مقلب القلوب. He is alternating that you can have faith and you can lose faith. يا مقلب القلوب. ثبت means just confirm our faith, make our faith strong, and confirm and let us be strong with our faith. Here you have the same word, it will come later for human beings. تتقلب. التقلب is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us in nature things that are with us. So this is something here which it's important in our understanding. So without going to all the specific verses that are coming later, just to understand, the people who are struggling for faith, they are resisting their nature and trying to come close to Allah. And nurun ala nur is this, looking in your heart for your nur, and His light will come with your effort. So it's exactly the same as get the niche, get the lamp, and Allah will come with His. As much as you are building, as much as He will come, knowing that at the end is supernatural. It's not a natural way. It's not a natural process. It's the will of God, which is beyond that. Now, if you look at all the verses that have to do with al-kafir, just after وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُمْ كَسَرَابٍ بَقِعَةٍ. So all the verses that are coming here are all dealing with nature. If you look at what is coming after that is, but as for those who are bent on denying the truth, look, their good deeds are like a mirage in the desert. And the mirage is everything it has to do with nature without any reference in the images or the parable on anything which is done by human being. It has to do with the first years, the mirage in the desert. After that, you have what is coming is their deeds like the depth of darkness, open an abysmal sea, made yet more dark, but wave blowing over wave. It's all the images of nature. So in fact, there is something which is important here. You are lost with your faith if you go and you follow nature without resisting it. And the image that is showing no light is in nature. Light is out of your effort with your nature. Darkness could be following nature, and all the images that are going here are very physical, at the point where you cannot even see your hand in this darkness. You cannot see the hand. And the physical dimension here means if you don't have light in your heart, you will lose light in your way of looking at things. So there is here a correspondence, in fact, a link between the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the way we deal with ourselves and getting this nur, nurun ala nur, out of effort, and darkness upon darkness without effort. And this is the way nature is talking to you. If you understand the dimension, why Allah is not taking something which is completely natural when He's talking about His nur, because this is where the way towards Him is beyond your nature. Master your nature. Do something out of your nature, and you will get this something that could help you to go beyond nature. But if you stay within your nature, through your nature, you are going to be lost in nature. Darkness is when you follow your nature. Light is when you master your nature. And this is the two dimensions that you have. So this very powerful cosmological dimension is coming just after this in the verse that is أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So meaning, look now at nature, you can see what? Aren't you not aware that it is God whose limitless glory all creatures that are in the heavens and earth extol? So this dimension here, يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَالطَّيْرُ صَافَّاتٍ كُلٌّ قَدْ عَلِمَ صَلَاتَهُ. So now you look at nature, and what you see in nature is that everything in nature is praying. And every single element knows exactly what is its prayer. But we don't understand. In another verse in the Qur'an, it is said, but you don't understand the way they pray. والله عليم بما يفعلون ولله ملك السماوات وما في الأرض. And then you come to His power. And His power is understanding that everything سبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. All nature is praising Allah. And your understanding here is the way you look at nature is a mirroring dimension. Nature is mirroring your own struggle. But what you have to understand is that the ultimate dimension is that nature is celebrating Allah's glory by essence. You have to celebrate it by choice. So this is the starting point of view of our relationship. If we speak about ecology, if we speak about environment, is exactly here. It's that we have to understand, is that environment is not in fact something which is around us and we look at it. It's something which is around us and mirroring what is in us. And this is why the Hindu tradition talking about the microcosm and the microcosm is very essential in Islamic terms, is the way we deal with nature. And I remember that Piru Barak, you know, the Hindu, he was telling me once, he said, you know, I have a problem even with the concept of environment. Because environment means that we are at the center and something, everything is around us. And in fact, this is not my tradition. My tradition is not, you know, I'm the center. In Islam, we are in between. We are the center, but He's the objective. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, سَخَّرَ لَكُمْ. It means you are responsible. You have to deal with your freedom. So you cannot avoid that. But how are you going to deal with your freedom and in which way you have to deal with it? So the fact that there is something that we can call environment, something which is around us, is not wrong in Islam. If and only if we get this essence here, that everything around us is celebrating and praying the same prayer as us. So we are the center of a universe that is praying with us, not a universe that is only for us without praying with us. So it's not the same. It's that we are praying with the universe and the universe is praying with us, the glory and the oneness of God. And then all the elements that we have that are also spreading a kind of mirroring and sometimes also fear. So the way this nature could be powerful is to say what? Is to tell us it's powerful, but Allah is more powerful than the powerful nature within which. So you are not going to master nature, but know that Allah is mastering the nature that you cannot master. And as much you cannot master nature, you should know that the way you are going to master your nature is only going to be done through Him. With His power, you master yourself. And with His power, you can deal with this nature. As much as this nature is more powerful than you in your life, you know that it's through Him that you have, and with Him that you have to get this protection. This is exactly the same. And here you have the macro and the micro. What is happening in yourself and what is happening, the supernatural within you is the powerful outside. So these dimensions also are important in the way we have to deal with this and talking about El-Jibal and this dimension of his power. And if you come to the last verses, look at verse 44. I told you, تَتَقَلَّبُ, and here you have يُقَلِّبُ اللَّهُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارِ. So as much as He is able to make you believe today and not believe tomorrow, He is the one who is making night and day. Night and day. As much this succession, so it's exactly, He's using exactly the same term. The same term to tell us the stability in this succession, يُقَلِّبُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارِ, is exactly the same as the word that he was using for our heart just before. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَعِبْرَةً لِأُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Meaning what? That ibra means what? It's in this they are teaching for those who are full of insight and people who can see, people who can understand. Ulul absar can see what? That in alternation of what he's doing, in fact, the only one who is getting the balance, getting the power, getting the stability in things that are moving is Allah. So in time, through time, know that the only immutable reference as the source and the objective, inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, it's Him. In all this movement, even with yourself, because you are not stable. The only stable reference in your life is the way you deal with Him. Because with your own self, nature is more powerful than you, even in your heart, if you are not referring to Him. Your nature is more powerful than yourself in yourself, as much as nature is more powerful than you through the clouds, through all the references that we have here. And the last thing that I wanted to mention here is coming back to the source. All this, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ دَابَةٍ مِّن مَاءٍ. So the origin of everything is water. And this water as an element, التراب والwater, is coming back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is very important for us, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, look at this nature, the power of this nature. In fact, you are coming from the same source. I'm the creator, I'm the source of all that, but your own reference, your own source, for you it's coming from water, it's coming from dust. So it's exactly the same destiny that you will have as human beings. And then very quickly, يَخْلُقُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Allah is creating whatever He wants, and He is able of everything. And then the last element, which is once again the reference to nature, لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا آيَاتٍ مُبَيِّنَاتٍ. So we revealed science, and science is once again the two books. The book of nature, which is a very, Renaissance started this liberation of intelligence when they understood that you have to read the book of nature. Islam is saying this from the very beginning. Nature is a book. You have to read it. And as much as you read nature, you read yourself. You read yourself, you read nature. And it's the way here, which is also ending. وَاللَّهُ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Allah يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاء means it's supernatural. It's not in your hand. Allah يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاء. Exactly the same with the light. The light is coming. You can do whatever you want, but at the end, His light is coming to you. Whatever you want, it's His will, not only your decision. And exactly the same at the end with all this reference to the cosmological teaching, you get that. Now, if you have all this in mind, you understand, and this is why I will conclude what I wanted to say here, is our understanding of that. What kind of teachings or lessons we can draw from all this? The first thing that it's important for us as Muslims is our understanding of nature and this reference that it's a gift, but it's also a book, but it's also cosmology. It's also something which is, look, elements around you are not at your service. Before even that you were on earth, they were celebrating the glory. So much so that when you came, the angels knew that you were going to cause problems. أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا, the earth, مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء. Are you going to put on earth, because doesn't want to stay here. Are you going to put on earth a human being that is going to corrupt and destroy everything? So the angels understood that this earth, salihah, that what the earth was before you came, celebrating the glory of God, and with the angels. And the angels are exactly like nature. They have no freedom. They are celebrating the glory of God. So what we had is, a human being are coming with their freedom. And their freedom is, here, they are going to destroy nature. يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا. يُفْسِدُ is the opposite of islah. So what we have to do, by nature, exactly like the second part of what I just said now about all this wave, open wave, and all this, by nature, we are going to corrupt. By nature. It's with the spiritual jihad and with His help, with this supernatural help of God, that you can come and become muslihun, islah. So our whole struggle in nature is to look at ourselves, to struggle with our own self. So in fact, environment is not to deal with nature, is to deal with ourselves. First, the starting point is this. Deal with yourself, you will deal with nature. If you try just to, and this is why sometimes, to tell you the truth, when I am talking to environmentalists, sometimes I remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that sometimes they look at things with one eye. I say they look at the catastrophe, they look at the problem, say, but there is something which is the deep spiritual dimension here, is that at the end, it's not by protecting nature that you will solve the problem, it's by reforming human beings. The point is, one eye is to look at the problem with nature. Two eyes is to look at the problem with human beings. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is this at the end. All the question of the way you deal with at-taskhir, which is, I gave you all that, is the way you have to deal with yourself. Use essence. If you don't deal with your essence, by nature you are going to corrupt. It's by struggling against your nature that you are going to reform. So this is the one dimension. But this is where you as Muslims, especially in living in the West, this is something that we have to understand. This is the deep teaching of Islam. The deep lessons that we need to get is understand, even just to stick to what we just read today and say, okay, the way it's constructed give us this deep understanding of this relationship. Now, this is one dimension. Now, and this is why we have to build an Islamic cosmology. We have to have a discourse on Islamic cosmology. It's the way we deal with the cosmos. It's the way we deal with the micro. It's the way we deal with nature. It's the way it's mirroring all these dimensions. We are not talking enough about this. We very often, because we are so obsessed with how do we have to deal, and we have some hadith, and we are very happy we are not integrating the hadith as to the way we behave as to the way we understand our concept of life and death. While everything is coming in Islam through this, it's coming through a very deep understanding of this dimension. And remember, Allah is speaking about His nur by talking about the nur that we are trying to get out of a niche and saying, yes, come. It means now you build it, you have to construct, you have to be involved in this. So it's a struggle. The second thing that I wanted to say, which has to do with this understanding, is understanding this. You may have now a better understanding of the relationship that we need to have with nature, with animals, and with everything around us. And this is the very meaning of al-Khilafah. Unfortunately, today when you talk about Khilafah and you look at the people who are on TV, Khilafah is a distorted term. We have reduced Khilafah to politics. Khilafah is humanity. It has to do with humanity. It not has to do with politics. It doesn't have to do with power. It has to do with the very essence of humanity. And in fact, khulafa fil ard means vicegerent, that he has the power, he has al-mulk, he has the ownership, and we are trying our best. We should try our best, knowing that Allah, by nature, made us people that are spreading corruption by our own nature. So now what we have to do is to struggle to reform ourselves in order to protect nature, because the way nature was at the beginning was a protected space. We are, with our presence, corrupting the whole thing. And this is why we have to understand all the hadiths, the ahadith, all the verses that are telling us the way we have to behave now, out of an ethical and legal framework. And the legal framework is, of course, to tell us al-halal wal-haram. And the halal al-haram is, for example, you will never kill an animal without a clear objective, and the only clear objective is protecting your life or eating in the name of life. That's it. You kill to protect life, and you kill to eat in the name of life. You can't just kill anything that's sacrificing and all this. Killing animals is not possible. So even the way, you know, and the way we have to deal with all the animals has to do with protecting life or protect our life or eating for life. This is one. The second is then you understand that this has to do with an understanding of the creation of Allah in the relationship that we have with nature. And then there is one hadith that you have to remember, and it will summarize everything that I wanted to say. It is said, إذا قامت الساعة وفي يد أحد فصيلة. If there if the day of judgment is coming, and if you have in your hand plants and you are able to put it on earth or to plant it before the Sa'ah, do it. Meaning what? Meaning be careful. As much as you are protecting nature by principle, not because of catastrophe, you have to plan and to do things not for the result, but for respecting nature by essence, in its essence. And you know that it's the end. The reward is not as to the result, is as to the principle of doing this, protecting life, which means in fact that you are respecting the creation of God just before the destruction of the world. So not about the principle, not about the result, but for the principle. Getting this, you understand now in which way everything in our relationship with nature has to do with this understanding. This understanding that we have to understand that al-khilafa is for us the way we are going to protect nature and to protect what was given to us. One woman is going to hell because she mistreated a cat. One woman is going to heaven or paradise because she protected a dog. And the Prophet ﷺ said that even you remember with birds and all this, the way he was asking the people in situation of war, while you are protecting your life, you cannot destroy nature, you cannot destroy fruit trees. This is something, even when you are in a situation where you are protecting the community, the space around you, with the river, when you are doing your ablution, the principle is much stronger than only the result of the consequences. Flowing river, the point is not to waste on water because we don't have enough. No, you will have enough water, but you protect water by principle. Why? Because of what we said at the beginning. Because it's the cosmology. Because this is the relationship you have with nature that has to have the deep understanding. So this is where our discourse on environment should be linked with this spiritual dimension, which should be linked with the message and what I said at the beginning. The source, this is, you are coming from there. It's your mother. It's the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you out of dust and water. This is the way you have to understand the science around you, because this is the way Allah is talking to you. Nature is a book and you respect the books of God. And the last thing is you have the responsibility out of your freedom, and you have to understand that your freedom should be based on the principles and not only on corruption. Corrupting, you will find people who are going to do that, but you are going to protect it by the way you are going to mirror or experience this mirroring reality between you and nature, inshallah. Wallahu a'lam wa ala wa ahkam.
So you talked about how nature, and if we follow our nature, then that makes us, that can only lead to darkness, because that is essentially what we are. But last time we were talking about the concept of fitra, and about how it actually calls us to a higher ethical kind of calling. Could you just explain a little bit more about the difference between the two?
No, fitra is the essence at the beginning. And from the beginning, we have been created. Fitrat Allah allati fatara an-nas alayha. This is, in fact, this is the spark. The spark. What we have to do is to make this spark being light. So we have to work on that. And Allah will come with His light. So light upon light. The problem is that the way we are is that by our nature, if we follow our nature, this light is going to be covered. This light is going to, so if we follow nature, the only way to come back to the source of this fitra is to struggle, is to build the niche, to protect it. It's to have this light. The niche, you have to build it. You have to think about that. If you expose this, you are going to be completely lost. So this is why there is no original sin in Islam. In fact, there is original light. You get the difference. It's completely different. But now, out of us following our nature, by our own responsibility, not the responsibility of Adam. Adam was forgiven. Our own responsibility by following our nature, قَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. So it's how are we going to keep it? Through a process of purification. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, كما أرسلنا فيكم رسولا منكم يتلو عليكم آياتنا. This he يتلو عليكم آياتنا means he's exposing to you my signs, and it could be the book, and it could be the book of nature. ليزكيكم, to purify. This purification is what? What is purification? Purification is reforming, coming back to the fitra. So this is essential here, that we have to be, this is why anyone who is looking at himself or herself saying, I'm bad. No, this is what is, the bad is what is covering. And your assertiveness should be, I'm bad in what covers, but I am good in what is covered. My struggle is to come to what is covered. It's the opposite of the original sin. The original sin is whatever you are going to do, you will end up with the original sin. For us, no. But in fact, how do you uncover? Through your effort, building the niche, and His presence, coming with His light. So it's something which has to do with assertiveness as to your potential, humility as to His decision.
My question is maybe a little bit difficult. You talk about struggling a lot and the internal jihad, and you talk about all those things which we need to do, and this kind of very high state of spirituality which we need to achieve, which is actually, when you were talking about that, I felt like it's very difficult, even in my heart, just thinking about doing that, because when you talked about how in the ayahs, it said that the person who is at one with with nature is also in the world. So he has tijara, he's part of the world. So he's not an ascetic, or a monk, he's taken himself outside the world, and therefore he can achieve this high spiritual state. He's still in the world. And he has to establish his prayer, connect himself with his Lord, but then also spend time in giving zakah and making sure he's part of the community. And he's doing all of that while at the same time, attaining this high spiritual state through jihad of the nafs, or whatever it is, and becoming one with the world, and with the whole of creation and the environment. And it's a very difficult thing to actually do in practice, I feel. So what is your methodology and actual way of practically doing this struggle internally? Because I find it very difficult just to think about it.
No, I think we all understand what you mean. There is no one who is not understanding exactly what you mean here. I think it's difficult, but be careful. I think that this is where, very often, what is defeat? When you are defeated, is when you think you are defeated. The first defeat is what you think that you are defeated. Is the way you look at things. What is said here is the final state where you are doing this in the natural. This is very difficult. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not saying this here. He's saying, in fact, you have to start. You have to start the struggle, and the fact that you are starting is difficult in itself, but the fact that you are aware and you start doing things in that direction, it's the movement which is your necessity, is not the result. It's the fact that you are starting, you are struggling. And this is why there is something which is supernatural. It's not natural. It's not, when I will reach there, I will get, no. It's because I want, because I start, because I am in the right way, the right path. And this is what you are saying 7 times a day. When you are saying, just direct us to the right path. The right path is what? It's a path. It's the right path. One step after one. It's not the final. I'm not reaching, but I'm trying to go. And the fact that I'm trying, this is it. Trying is to keep the light. Trying. Struggling is to keep the light. So it's not about the result. And it means that it might be that tomorrow you are going to fail. And you have to acknowledge your own weaknesses. You have to acknowledge that you are not able always to be at that level. So the only fact that you are saying it's difficult, it means you are on the right path. For someone who is not feeling that it's difficult, it's not on the right path. Why? Because this is the right path. But in the ba'di al-usri yusr. So it means that you have something which is difficult, that Allah is easing. So what we have to understand is you have to be positive as to there is light somewhere in all hearts. Well, even if you see people who are so apparently so bad, there is light somewhere. Somewhere there is. So you have to be positive. You have to respect them in the light that Allah put in their heart. One. Second, as to you, the very moment you try to reform yourself for the best, that you are trying to do something out of yourself, that you are not passive, that you are not accepting your nature, that you don't sit down and to say, I'm bad, I can't, Allah doesn't love me, this is wrong. This is wrong because in fact, you are talking about difficulty, but you are not experiencing it because you're just, you are the victim of your own perception, because at the end you are building a personality which is in fact not struggling. So the meaning of struggling is to start struggling, is not to win the struggle. Because you know what? No one in this room is going to win the struggle in itself. And it's only out of rahmatullah that we are going to succeed. It's not out of our effort. No one here can say or can feel that out of my effort I'm going to succeed, because we all know that we are far from succeeding. If we ask Allah only for justice, it's a nar. If one of us here say, Allah be just with me, khalas, yani nar, because we know, everyone. So we are asking al-rahmah, wal-tawbah, wal-maghfirah, because we know if he is going to come with the right balance, that's over. And as much as we are asking for his rahmah, we should be with our self-understanding that the beginning of being on the right path is to start struggling.
Cal. It was a kind of follow-up to the question that was asked, but just a clarification on right at the beginning of the tafsir, talking about what we make, almost as perhaps a metaphor, but perhaps I misinterpreted. That's kind of my question. That what we make is actually key to the process of this striving. And the fact that you mentioned original sin and original light was more interesting, because the early Christian conceptions of what we made, or artifice, was all based upon either aspiring to the perfection of Eden, having been cast out in the sin, or an eternal striving that will never be fulfilled, always perpetuating the sin, and its affected ideas of artifice until now. So can one take from the verse a meaning that talks about artifice or a technology, and then say that Islamically there's a link between this original light and what we do by making things in the world, because that obviously affects nature.
No, I wouldn't go as far as that. I don't know if you were to. I don't think that there is something that. No, I don't think that, because in the Islamic tradition, acting in itself or technology in itself is not morally qualified. It's what we do, is the way we use that. So technology could be good and technology could be bad. Original sin means that at the end, what we do, majority of what we are going to do, it's, or even, in the Greek philosophy, by the only fact that our soul is in our body by definition is going to act or direct in the wrong way. In Islam, we don't have this at all. We don't have something which is an act has to be qualified in the light of its objectives and intention and objective, not the result, and not by essence. So technology of course, there is a way that if technology is only responding to our nature, it's going to corrupt. Technology, if it's, and this is what we are saying. We are saying, be careful. The very moment, for example, in the Islamic tradition, Muslims were dealing with science in the light of the objective, the spiritual dimension. They were a very powerful civilization. But if you remove the ends, the goals, in the discussion that I have with an anthropologist and a philosopher, he was saying the catastrophe in the West is this disconnect between science and objectives and science, this fragmentation. Because there is in Islam it's this. All these are means, but means without ends become ends, and this is your end. This is you can't get out of that. And at the end, the final objective is God. This is Tawheed.
Sorry, can you say the last bit again?
No, it comes like that, so I cannot.
You're saying that the disconnect in the West is between technology and the ends and science?
So you want me to repeat it?
No, I wasn't sure what it meant.
Okay. Yes, I was saying that the disconnect between the means and the ends. No, in fact, the point was this, that technology of what the people are doing is not bad in itself. It's the moral qualification is coming out of your intention and the objectives. So in fact, quite the opposite, that in Islam you have to act. You need to act. In fact, if you need technology to reform as much as technology could destroy, but you need to have this counterpower of the right action. In fact, we need right action to be able to resist to our potentially bad nature. The rest of it, I don't remember.